the leader himself is here to understand how we are moving ahead, especially at the joint venture which we have planned together. And we look at the history of Agri-Finance Corporation AFC, it is a success story. And they still want to rewrite that success story with many new initiatives. And that one is, I think, FPO call center. It would not have happened without the support and the guidance of AFC. I remember the day Dr. Pant, Avinash were sitting and planning the things. They thought, okay, this can be a big viable project. And I should tell you, see, you can see all our team has already thought it is launched. In the narrative also it was seen. So, and we all know we are going to launch it on 24th. So, the feeling of it is happening has already started. Okay. So, what we are looking ahead is that the way this will be changing, especially the farming community growth, especially, sir always talk about the market. Where is the market? To finding out a market to the farming community, the biggest challenge we all face. Production is not a problem, but finding a market. And I'm sure with the support of AFC, we will be a guiding force to find market for the farming community. That will be one of the spirit on which we will be working in a big way. And about sir, we know that he has worked in this industry, especially as I said, in the development industry, in a big way. And when you sit with him for 5-10 minutes, you know the man is from the ground, not one high skyrocket and back. So you can feel everything. When you talk, you will love to listen to him, hear him, understand him, and in the number of places he visits now also is huge. He knows ground realities. And that what will guide us to perform and scale up in our endeavors. So I wish Mashar sir to come and address us better because you listen to me very often. So we can hear a more vision, his plan, how he thinks how this joint venture can take into the next step. What are his plans, dreams, visions we have together so that it will help the bigger community, our family, agriculture sector. So welcome sir, please.
Respectful Dominic sir, Shiny Dominic madam, my colleague Avinash, Dr. Pant, and all the staff members of Krishi Jagran. Although we are going to, or we have already entered into a sort of a formal agreement, and the FPO call center is going to become a reality soon. Nonetheless, I find that it was a natural partners in the sense Krishi has been the common in both our normal. Although in Hindi, Krishi Jagran is there in your nomenclature, Agriculture Finance Corporation, agriculture is the commonality between both of us. So that means that we have been working on the similar area in a different format. And you as a provider of the knowledge, provider of the information, and I always believe that knowledge is the strength of any domain, because always we say that the domain expertise. So domain expertise becomes domain expertise just because of the depth of the knowledge and depth of the practical knowledge he has. And it is not that knowledge over a night we can acquire it over a period of, because it is based on, it is not the theoretical knowledge which we are talking about. It is the applicable knowledge which can be applied by the last man in the field. And agriculture, the last man is the farmer. And when we think about the knowledge, the farmer has to be in our mind. Farmer first, or rather, if you have come across the famous book of Robert Chambers, so there also he speaks about the farmer first. I think he wrote the book somewhere 20 or 30 years back. And Robert Chambers, I always remember because he is the person who has extensively traveled in India, in our own country, and he has mapped everything and all, and he has written beautiful books like in Canal Command India, he has written about the fate of the tail end farmers in the Canal Command India. So why I'm saying this thing is that unless and until we have a clarity about the requirement of the final client, who is the farmer, and then only our entire thought processes, entire deliverable we have, it is going to become the useful and meaningful. And in that regard, AFC also has been working in this line with almost maybe little older than Krishi Jagran, or we had been in this field for the last more than 54 years by now. And initially we started our journey, you know that we are a deemed government company, which is formed by half a dozen, more than dozen banks, including NABARD and Excel Bank. And almost all the public sector banks, private sector banks, and many of the foreign banks like American Bank, Mashar, and HSBC and all our partners, our shareholders. And that being so, you might ask that why that banks have thought of forming such an organization. Way back in 60s when it was formed, because that was the period you might remember that a lot of emphasis was given by government of India about nationalization of the banks, number one. More than nationalization, it was a socialization of the bank. And the banking sector before 1960s, if you take, it was for a few privileged people, only the services of the banks were given. And the branches are far and few, and they were not there in the nook and corners of the country and all. Mostly it used to be urban centric, and they were doing the banking of what we call it as class banking, banking for class. And from the class banking to the mass banking, if the banking has to become a mass banking, so it needs a lot of changes. So it needs a lot of modifications in the policy and in the entire rolling out the policy and all. And nationalization, the first nationalization was towards that end. And that was the first period the social banking started coming into the fore. And then social banking for whom? And what is that the banks are supposed to do for the well-being of the society as a whole? Because as I said, from the doorstep of an urban-oriented person, if the banks will have to serve to the rural entity, and definitely they need to have a large network of the branches in almost at least what we call it a service area approach and all. So that is how you would have seen that 60s, 70s, 80s and all. The banking network has increased at an increasing pace, and almost every block in the country were covered and all. So that was the time the banks thought that we need an extended arm. And because banking, they were doing the transaction-based banking, and they were not in a position to do something about the ground level feedback to get it, and also purveying of the credit to the last person. So they found another institution, if you form it, join together. So that is how the birth of AFC took place. And initially, we were involved direct financing also, and a couple of half a dozen or more than that bigger projects, especially in the minor irrigation sector and the water resources sector, we have been financing initially in the 60s and 70s. And later, as I said, after the nationalization and all, so the banks were having the fund with them, they can finance, but they do not have, because for financing, if you approach a bank and all, so the first and foremost thing they might be asking is that, for even if you know in your mind that for something if you're approaching, say if you wanted to set up an industry, you have some idea with you and all, and a small scale industry or a cottage industry and all. But they will first ask that where is your project report? Is it not? So banks were handicapped with the fact that they were not having as a sort of a setup, who can prepare a project report for a given an activity based on which the banks will be in a position to finance. So those days in 60s and 70s and all, not many people were there who were experienced in preparing the project report. And AFC was given the responsibility of preparing a feasible, viable, because when we talk about a project, always we use this kind of words like it has to be financially viable, it has to be technically feasible, and commercially it has to be acceptable, also politically it should be acceptable. And all this kind of jargons they were using and all. But nonetheless, a project report is something which has in 70s and 80s and even today. So project report, not many writers were there to prepare the project report, because project report, like you report many of the things and all, it is the project itself in the written in the document form before executing it on the field. Suppose if you wanted to construct a house, people say that you have to first construct in your mind, is it not? So what is the kind of house or the home we wanted, and how much of square feet it should be, what should be the roof look like, all that we will first be conceiving in our mind. So similarly, project is also like before grounding in the field, we are just trying to conceive everything beforehand itself. So that is a sort of an art, a sort of a scientific basis, because not everybody can write a project report. And especially if you talk about the international project and all, and the project writing is so cumbersome and so, difficult to see for the World Bank assisted project or ADB assisted project. So they have a different outlook altogether. So project writing, all of us started in AFC and all, and even today, DPR preparation, detailed project report preparation is one of the major activities which not just on behalf of the banks, but even on behalf of many of the state governments, ministries, and also many of the primary entrepreneurs we are involved in. So DPR has been the immediately after the financing and all, we have been focusing on that and all. Because DPR, as I said, so you need to know the domain expert. Suppose if you are preparing a project report on minor irrigation, and if it is for a borewell, and you should know everything about the technical aspect of a borewell, and if I dig a borewell, how much deep it has to go, and what will be the cost of the casing, what will be the cost of the drilling, and what will be the pump set cost. So everything and all on a real-time basis, the price will have to be calculated. And then a lot of technicality is that with that borewell, how much area you can irrigate, and that calculation scientifically and all. There are a lot of science behind that and all. So once we do the technical part, then later on we also do the financial analysis through what is known as IRR, FRR and all. So this kind of project we were doing and all. And later on we also found out areas like it is not just a project once formed, it is implemented. And one has to, because the state governments and the ministry has been rolling out crores of rupees for various projects. Because we have heard so many projects, even now we keep hearing Prime Minister's Awas Yojana, micromanagement program, Krishi Sinchai Yojana, and so many projects we are keep hearing about. Is it a project or is it a program? So do we know the difference between a program and a project? Because these are all interchangeably, loosely we use it. So for that, the government itself felt that there has to be a third agency. Sorry. So to look into that, whatever in the DPR stage you have conceived in your mind about the objectives, about the result, about the output, about the outcome, are we in a position to realize all that when the project is implemented? So that is how AFC came into as a monitoring and impact evaluation agency, monitoring and evaluation agency. So we are in most of the states, we are the empaneled agency for conducting the monitoring and evaluation of many of the projects which are already implemented. And this monitoring and impact evaluation, it is not a policy. It is like going into the field and finding out what deliverables we thought in the initial period when we formulated the project, And are we in a position to monitoring means it is the sort of a concurrent monitoring. When the project is ongoing, somebody goes to the field, check it up, and there are certain parameters and all, and that based on the parameter we try to see that are we going on right track. Because monitoring has got advantage of giving the continuous feedback to the client so that they will be in a position to have a midterm correction. Because unless it is monitored, we all know that anything which goes unmonitored, so we may not be knowing that are we going on track. So it is just to ensure that the project is going on track. And once the project goes on track through the strict sense of monitoring and all, and finally when the project is concluded, when the project completion report is submitted, then comes the impact evaluation. It is also known as ex post evaluation. And that evaluation brings to the fore many of the hidden facts in the project and all. So that really gives us what impact this project has brought to the farmer, to the society, to the economy, because we don't confine with that project alone. So the example which I said, the minor irrigation, even if I prepare a DPR for say 100 borewell, so by the time when the impact is assessed, directly we might be saying that 100 borewells were in a position to irrigate 1000 hectares of area, and this was in a position to increase the productivity from say 100 ton to 120 tons and all in terms of the quantification. But finally, we also try to see that societal value or the economic value of it. So had there not been the project, what would have been the loss to the economy, a sort of a projection, and if because of this project, how much benefit to the economy it has brought in. So this is how the impact evaluation is undertaken. This is how the monitoring and evaluation scale the AFC was involved. And from there we traversed a lot, and then right now where do we stand is that we have even entered into many of the direct implementation, and we are implementing many of the flagship programs of the government like Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana, like BPKP and organic farming project, and more importantly the farmer producer organization, which has brought both Krishi Jagran and AFC together. And so direct implementation we have entered into this field, and including FPO. So right now we are implementing something around 24 FPOs, about 4 or 5 states. And this FPO is the, all of you know that what is FPO and why this thought about the FPO itself has come, and why the policy decision government has taken to popularize this FPO system and all. So we all know that we are living in a country where we have something around say 150 million hectares of arable land, cultivable land. And this arable land, and we have a population of, sorry, I had a bad thought. So more than 60% of our population is dependent on this much of a arable land. So our per capita land holding, if you take, it is less than 2 hectares. So this less than 2 hectares, is it a viable proposition? If anybody, whatever crops you grow it, and really we always, always we keep reading in the newspaper and all. Many often there are a lot of farmers view and all saying that agriculture itself is not a profitable venture. I mean, these are all some of the views and all. And there are many farmers who really makes money also, depending on the crop. And because we do not know where the truth lies. But nonetheless, it is a fact that agriculture without any support, not only in India, everywhere if you go, even in USA or Europe and all, just because of the massive support of the state only, it is becoming profit. It is not that support is there in India only. We might be giving fertilizer subsidy, we might be giving a lot of other input subsidy and all, but similarly it is there in other countries also. So this process, because of our unlike in the Western country and all, where they have, say the minimum holding would be something around 500 hectares. Here we have 2 hectares. And how do we compare that? So in order to make it economically viable, the economy of scale will have to work. And that economy of scale will work only if the farmers come together. And this is a forum wherein the farmers have come together, and wherein at least initially maybe the 300 farmers, but eventually at least 700 to 1000 farmers, if they come together and register either as a company or as a society under the Companies Act or under the Societies Act of the state government, respective state government, they become an FPO. Or rather we call it, if it is registered under the Companies Act, we call it FPC, Farmer Producer Company. So this company is a conglomeration of group of farmers who have come with a purpose. It is not just physical coming together and forming some sort of a trade union or anything. No, they have come with a purpose. The purpose is that with this vehicle, we should be in a position of the benefit. And what is the benefit for the farmer? And the benefit is that whatever livelihood is involved, his livelihood is the farming. It could be agriculture, it could be horticulture, it could be dairy, it could be poultry, it could be fisheries, and whatever livelihood in which he is involved, he has to derive a decent income from that. And hitherto we have seen that individual farmer, as I said, they do less than 2 hectares and not, and if they produce whatever produce they can bring out, other than those crops like rice or wheat, for which there is an MSP, remaining crops for which there are no MSP and all, the price of the commodity after producing, when he brings to the market, it may not be favorable to the farmer, individual farmer, is it not? And mostly it is not favorable, because agricultural marketing is such a complicated topic in India, because lots of players you will find, lots of players and lots of middlemen, what we call broker, and all that. So because of that, so the real cost of cultivation farmer is not in a position to realize from this activity. Because if anybody will have to invest in a bank, in FD or in a share market and all, we expect our growth of the money, is it not? In FD, if I put it, the bank is offering, nowadays it is only hovering around the 6 to 7%. Earlier and all, it used to be 10 to 12%. So our expectation is that minimum 10% interest I should be earning it. And we are living in a country where the inflation rate is also near to 6%, is it not? So whatever the return should be more than the inflation rate. That is the basic economic funda. And that being so, from agriculture also, we should be earning more than at least the inflation rate. But even then, what we call it as cost of cultivation, he should be in a position to get it. Whatever cost of cultivation is there, 1.5 times of that cost of cultivation, he should derive it. So individual farmer, if he cannot derive it, what is the other mechanism? So that mechanism, what we perceive is the FPO. Government of India has already pilot tested through the initial program of 2000 FPOs, which were implemented by giving 200 crore to NABARD in somewhere in 2016. So they found it was quite successful and all. And that is how the 10,000 FPO scheme came and all. And now it is running. And now FPO, when we talk about, there are a lot of loose ends to be tied up. Because FPO is, as I said, it is a company going to be. And if a farmer is asked, and if he is semi-literate or illiterate, how do he runs a company? Can even educated people like us may not be in a position to run a company? Is it not? Dominic Saab is the head of the company. He knows the daily how much struggle he will be going through. I also know the struggle I am going through as a head of a company. And if you make a farmer head of a company with about 1,000 members in it and all, how will you run a company? And company, if he has to run it, he need to understand more than, because he is a master of farming. He has all the knowledge about the farming. So we need not have to teach anything about the farming. But what we need to teach is the product aggregation and then show him the market where he can realize a better price. And that is how, because although there are so many other benefits through the FPO forum and all that, and if he has to realize a decent income, then definitely he needs to know so many things. And that part we believe that there is a big gap, be it in compliance part, be it in regulatory part, be it in the business development, and all this part, there are so much of doubts in the minds of many of the farmers and all. And I believe the Krishi Jagran and AFC coming together in the form of an FPO call center, definitely we will be in a better position to give lot many answers to the needy FPOs who are spread in, now I think there are something around, although this is 10,000 going to be, and it is already there are so many FPOs and all, about 20,000 FPOs multiplied by on an average, if you take 500 farmer, that many number of farmers are going to get the benefit. Because you cannot, these days physically you cannot reach, and we are all in an era of digital era, and FPO call center is also a form of a digital outreach, and through which we can reach many farmers and their doubts can definitely be clarified. And this will be the beginning only, FPO call center, and this should not, this is only a starting, and I believe that agriculture is also going through a sort of a process revolution, I should say. Although we have seen the green revolution led by Dr. M. S. Swaminathan and all, and the white revolution from Gujarat, Amul and all. So it's still, people are talking about second green revolution. To me, it looks like it is a sort of a technical revolution going to be, and a market revolution. So the market revolution in the sense, the market has to respond to the producer's requirement. And that is how we are seeing it. So there is a good lot of scope and all. And going forward, in fact, we are also thinking of, lot of value-added products. And me and Dominic Swab were discussing. And that value-added project, that was quite incidental. Although I was also carrying that idea for quite some time and all. That is about the future market. And many of you would have heard about the future market. And other than the spot market, future market is yet another market which are being operated by many of the exchanges like NCDX, MCX, UCX and all. So this will be yet another area, probably, not probably, definitely both of us can work together so that the benefit of the future market we can ensure that it reaches the FPOs. Third area will be which in my dream is the, always we talk about environmental and social aspect. Whatever we do, whether it is the farming or any other developmental aspect, we forget about the environment and the social benefit. So environmental, social and governance, ESG, this has been taking roots in many of the, already in the developed nations it has taken roots, and here also it is slowly taking a root. And I am sure that the sustainability aspect of whatever development and all, from the prism of ESG, will be trying to look at it in the times to come and all. So the advantage is that when we bring a development, it should not be at the cost of environment. And no development should be at the cost of society. Is it not? And it is a big area. I think at some other time we can discuss. So ESG is yet another area which AFC would like to step in, and sustainable reporting, and like many of the companies, we prepare the balance sheet, financial balance sheet we prepare, but none of us prepare about the sustainable reporting. And the world, all world, many of the bigger companies are preparing the sustainability report. And if sustainability report of Krishi Jagran or AFC will have to be prepared, I should not be drinking this water from the plastic bottle. Is it not? So we are talking about the environment, we are talking about societal benefit. So this is our future thinking, and definitely, hopefully, we should be in a position to join hands in this area, also in the ESG and sustainability, because this is becoming, and to my mind, the coming 20 years or at least 10 years and all, this will become popular. Already with regard to the companies, the major companies and corporates, SEBI has already issued a guideline saying that the selected 100 companies, they should be preparing the sustainability report. And right now many companies are preparing that and all. And HSBC Bank is one foreign bank which is operating in India also, who comes out with a sustainability report, and NABARD also prepares a sustainability report, and I think RBI also has started, and down the line, almost all the banks and many of the companies, they will have to come out with a sustainability report, and it is about the carbon footprint, it is about the waterproof footprint, how much of carbon footprint we are generating, and this is how we should look at it, so that the larger thought of the mother earth which we are living in, it is not our parental property, it is the natural property. We have to give it back to the next generation without harming it through whatever development which we talk about, and it is our responsibility without causing any damage to the environment, without causing any damage to the downtrodden and the so-called marginalized society. We should be handing it over, and every endeavor, every business will have to work within this framework, and that will be area. So with this I stop, and thank you so much, and thank you for your attention. Thank you.
And now I would like to invite Mr. Avnish Kane to take to the podium and share his views with us.
आप सभी को वर्ष के अंतिम दिन तो मैं नहीं कह सकता, लेकिन शायद हम लोगों के लिए आज आप लोगों के साथ इंटरेक्शन होगा, और नए वर्ष की शुभकामनाओं के साथ आप सबको बधाई। आज पिछले हम लोगों ने करीब 6 मंथ पहले हम लोगों ने शुरुआत की थी एफपीओ का कॉल सेंटर को लेकर के, और मुझे उम्मीद है कि हमारे एमडी साहब ने और सर ने, दोनों लोगों ने का जो विजन है फार्मर्स को के लाइफ में बहुत सारे बदलाव आए। कोशिश है हम लोगों की एक कार्यक्रम को हम लोग बहुत अच्छे तरीके से चलाएंगे, तो हमारे से शुभकामनाएं हैं। समय का बहुत है, क्योंकि 2 लोग एक कंपनी के कुछ लोग आकर के बैठे हुए हैं ऑफिस में, तो मैं समय को लेकर के थोड़ा सा रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि सर थैंक यू वेरी मच।
And now I would like to welcome Dr. Pant for the vote of thanks.
On behalf of Krishi Jagran, I thank you to attend this KJ Choupal special initiative by Krishi Jagran, and we all are very interested to listen more and more from you next time also. And once again, I thank you both for coming to KJ Choupal. Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone, and now we will have a quick photo session with our guests.